mechanics in physics covers these different materials, but if we trace back and see what the most essential knowledge that we learn, that includes 3 parts. We learned 6 types of forces, 10 types of motions, and we learned different principles about motions and also about how force and motion are related. So the principles include equations of motion, Newton's laws, energy and work, and momentum and impulse. In the beginning of the semester, we learned 4 different types of forces: weight, normal force, tension, and friction. Towards the end, we learned spring force and also buoyant force. So these are the 6 types of forces we learned. Throughout the semester, we learned different types of motions, and we usually use some simple models in that type. So here are 10 different types of motions as a summary. Whenever an object is not moving, it's at rest. That's the first type. Second and third are one-dimensional motions with either constant velocity or constant acceleration, and free fall is a special case. Two-dimensional motions, we learn about projectile motion and uniform circular motion. Then we learned about slides and swings that we can apply conservation of energy. And we learned about collisions, where we can apply conservation of momentum and also the impulse momentum theory. We learned about rotations. There are equations of motion that are similar to the linear motions, including one-dimensional rotation with constant angular velocity or constant angular acceleration. We also learned what torques are and how to calculate torque. Between the linear motion and rotation motion, we learned a relationship between those properties. The last 2 types of motions we introduced are simple harmonic motion and also sink or float. Simple harmonic motions are due to the spring force, which can be described by what's called the Hooke's law. And what's important about this simple harmonic motion is the period or frequency, or we call angular frequency of the motion. The 3 are all related. And these properties are based on the system, the characteristics of the system, not exactly how you start the motion. The last type of motion, float or sink, is due to buoyant force. And we also learned pressure in liquid at different depths. So these are the different types of motions we studied. Principles and laws. So we learned different equations of motion, including one-dimensional motion, two-dimensional motion, and also simple harmonic motion. Then we learned Newton's laws. So we have Newton's first law, second law, and third law. We learned work-energy relationship and also conservation of energy. We learned impulse-momentum relationship and also conservation of momentum. In summary, we learned 6 types of forces, 10 types of motions. These are the special simplest cases of motions. And we learned different principles that we can use that tells us how the different motion properties are related in equations of motion, and also how force is related to motion in Newton's laws, energy and work relationships, and momentum and impulse relationships. So this is a mechanics overview. Knowing these basic maps of knowledge will help us solve problems.